I'm Jessica Stutzman, and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. It's that time of year when the snowflakes start to fall and temperatures drop to a bitter low. During the winter months, we tend to spend more time at home with our families and loved ones. So what better way to protect them by making sure you are prepared from any fire hazards or winter emergencies? Joining us today on this show from Millcreek Township's Code Enforcement and Office of Emergency Management is Caleb Dixon, Fire Code Official and Emergency Management Coordinator. Caleb, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Well, as we mentioned, the temperatures are getting really cold and eerie, and that means everybody tends to hibernate indoors. I know I do, and my family does. We have a great show lined up today, I think, to really, again, dive into fire hazards and what to do to make sure your family is safe, among other hazards that maybe we don't think about in the winter. So, again, just talking about fire right from the start, what is the importance of smoke alarms?
3 out of 5 fire home deaths occur because there's no smoke alarms in the house. Most people that do die in fires die not from the fire itself, but from the smoke and the heat and the gases that come off of that fire. So you want to make sure you have smoke detectors outside of every bedroom and on every level of your home. You also want to make sure to test those smoke alarms at least monthly. There's a test button on there. Go ahead and press that test button and make sure it does sound. You also need to replace your batteries. All right, we've been telling people for years, you replace them anytime we change the clocks. So spring forward, spring back, also change your clocks. Change your batteries. Now, these new systems are great because they have 10-year batteries. The bonus of a 10-year battery is, A, you don't have to replace it. But the best part is when it does sound, that means you need to replace the entire unit. Smoke alarms are not good forever. They only last for about 10, maybe 12 years, and you have to replace the entire unit. So by going with these new systems with a 10-year battery, when it beeps, you get a brand new one, you install a whole brand new one. There's also great technology out there to have them wirelessly interconnected. And if you have a multiple story house or you have kids on a separate story from parents or elderly on a different story from their primary caregiver, it's awesome because if your alarm goes off in the basement, it can sound the alarms on the second floor also. And you can buy those at the local box stores such as Lowe's, Home Depot, or any of the online places also. So that's a great way to improve the safety of your family.
And I think, again, and this I did not realize, again, that it's the smoke really that gets to you first, probably before the fire, but that you need as much time as possible to get your family out safely. So whether that's through a window or if you can make it back downstairs, but I think time is what we're trying to buy people here. We're trying to get you, again, if it goes off on the basement and you have that interconnected system and you find out, then you have a lot more time than if that fire does come up through all the levels of the home.
Absolutely. You know, buying that time is crucial in getting notification to the fire department and getting you safely out of your home. So a lot of our fire deaths also occur at night when people are sleeping because they don't realize an alarm's going off. Typically, most people are up during the day. So if there's an alarm going off somewhere in the house, they may hear it. It may take them a moment to recognize what the sound is, but they pick up on it and start looking. If you're sleeping, it may not wake you immediately. So there's a large push right now to close before you doze. And that's a program to remind people to close your bedroom door before you go to sleep, which to a lot of people might sound counterintuitive. They might say, if I close my door and the smoke alarm's outside, I'm not going to be able to hear my smoke alarm. However, by having your door open, if there's a fire somewhere near your bedroom, you have about 3 minutes. In about 3 minutes, you're going to succumb to the gases that are off that fire. If your door's closed, that increases to almost 17 minutes. In addition to that, the temperature of the room, if there's a fire outside in a hallway, it might be 100 degrees in your room and 1,000 degrees on the other side of your door. So having that door closed is extremely important. You know, it also helps with our carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a huge killer that comes off of fires. It's a byproduct of things not burning properly, is basically how it happens. And you can't smell it. All right, it has no smell, it has no taste, it has no visual indicators. It just kills you, and that's why it's called the silent killer. Now, if your door's closed while you're sleeping, it may only be 1,000 parts per million inside your room, which is still not healthy. You don't want to be living in there. However, it could be over 1,000 parts per million out in the hallway, and that'll kill you very quickly. You know, so it's very, very important to close your door while you're sleeping.
Well, again, viewers, I hope then that message really hit home to you. I do close the baby's door, and that's really just to prevent noise from, you know, my husband and I doing dishes or whatnot from making it into the baby's room and waking her up. But now I know, again, that that's going to keep her safe. I've never closed closed our door, but now I'm going to start too. So I appreciate that tip.
Oh, absolutely.
And you've also given me inspiration to for the Millcreek calendar that we produce when we do notify people, turn back your clocks or turn ahead your clocks. I'm going to also make a note, a little special reminder on that day that people need to change the batteries too.
That'll be great. And hopefully the residents of Millcreek that use that calendar will take that reminder to heart and do it.
Well, I know I will, and I know my smoke alarm, I have several, again, every floor and every room, but I know one of mine went out of the ones that I had, and so I had to replace it, and I was really surprised to see I don't know if it was an expiration date or a date published on the back of the smoke alarm. But we've talked before about how the date that's on the back of the smoke alarm, I think it was maybe the date it was constructed or built, but that it does sit on a shelf before it makes it into your home. So even though you think you just purchased it, it may have been produced quite some time before as well.
Absolutely. So you do want to check that before you actually purchase or install a smoke alarm. And one of our great partners is American Red Cross. They'll actually come out with their smoke alarm program and install them for you in your home. And all you have to do is get in touch with the local chapter of the Red Cross and request somebody to come out, and they evaluate your home and help you with the smoke detectors. And that takes away all the anxiety of knowing, do I place it 12 inches from a ceiling or 4 inches? And well, what about the window here? And there's a lot of questions that people have because it can be kind of confusing because your home or any building has pockets that smoke won't get into. And if a smoke detector is in that pocket of air that's kind of protected, it's not going to do any good. So by having somebody like the Red Cross come out or your local volunteer fire department come out to help you, that's a great way to do it. So we highly recommend people contact the Red Cross for assistance on that.
And Caleb, what are some common fire starters in a house?
Well, there's a lot of things that can start fires. During the winter season, a lot of people use space heaters. All right, space heaters are a huge starter of fires. We just had one recently in Millcreek that displaced a family of 6. Because a space heater was left too close to the comforter on a bed. And luckily, it was in a child's bedroom, but luckily that child had left for school before the fire started. Otherwise, that may have been a fatality in that fire because it just sat too close and heated up and burned the mattress and everything. So space heaters are a huge problem. Your regular furnace, if it's not maintained, if you don't have somebody come out to actually check your furnace, then dust collects in there and that dust can catch on fire. And a fire in the ductwork can spread very, very quickly because you think about the construction of your furnace is it blows that air everywhere. So if you have a fire in the duct and the furnace blowing, that's now a chimney that's pushing everywhere in every room of your home. So you got to make sure those are taken care of. And then obviously with cooking, we're past the holiday season at this point, but there's still other ones that are going to be coming up. But during the winter, a lot of people start cooking bread and cooking large meals and things like that to heat the house up. So you have to make sure that you're cooking properly. You're not leaving things unattended. If you have appliances like slow cookers on your counter, make sure that they're in proper working order, that the cords aren't frayed, or even outside of the safety side, you have kids and I have kids. Let's make sure they're not too close to the edge of the counter where a young child's going to grab it and pull it down on themselves and cause other issues besides just a fire.
Right. Okay, good. And so we started to talk about the silent killer, carbon monoxide, and I want you to touch on that a little bit more because, again, I've just heard recently of some unfortunate situations. Again, even when people go traveling, it seems as though, maybe some of these bed and breakfast type situations that are more home-like than a hotel situation, you need to, make sure where you're staying at, either in your home or on vacation, is well equipped with carbon monoxide detectors too. Tell us a little bit more about carbon monoxide in general.
Absolutely. Carbon monoxide, as we said earlier, is a silent killer. All right? It's a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas that a lot of people don't realize they're breathing every day, just in low enough quantities that it does not become an issue. Now, once we start getting to the higher quantities, it's measured in parts per million, then it actually it removes the oxygen from your body. So each one of your red blood cells in your body has 4 parking spots, basically. All right. So your oxygen attached to those 4 parking spots. Now, that cell likes carbon monoxide better than oxygen. So as you're breathing in carbon monoxide, it'll attach and kick off one of those oxygen molecules. So now instead of having 4 parking spots, you may be down to 1 parking spot. So that's not enough oxygen in your body for your heart and your brain and everything else to actually continue to work. So it does kill you, and it can kill you very slowly. Now, one of the huge indicators of it is it makes you sleepy. So it's tough, because if your levels start going up and you don't have an alarm, you're just starting to get dozy and fall asleep. And then you end up falling asleep in an atmosphere that's not safe to live in.
Right.
You know, and in the fire service, we call that an immediately danger to life hazard. All right. That is not a safe environment, even for our firefighters to be in. So we have to ventilate it and get people out. So if you're starting to get tired, you're getting rosy cheeks, you're getting confused,
and are headaches or nausea a part of this at all?
Headaches are a big part of it.
Okay.
And a lot of times it affects children before adults because they're lower to the ground. You know, so you might have children that all of a sudden get tired when they're not normally tired. You know, if they're anything like my kid, they're never tired. So if at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they're starting to try to take a nap on the floor, I'm going to start looking and figuring out what's going on. But having the carbon monoxide detectors is a huge part of that. You know, if you don't have any sort of fuel-fired appliance in your home, you don't have to worry about carbon monoxide, because it is a byproduct of unburnt fuel. So if you're not using wood burners, if you don't have a natural gas furnace, something like that, then you're okay. If your house has an outdoor wood boiler and it just pushes the liquid into your system for your baseboard heat, then you don't necessarily need one. Not a bad idea to have one. It's not going to hurt anything to install one by any means. But if you have a wood burning furnace, something that you definitely want to have on every floor of the house, so you know if there's a carbon monoxide problem. And those also need to be replaced. You can get some of these smoke alarm systems that are a combination, which do both for you. So you have your smoke and you have your carbon monoxide all tied into one unit. And when you replace that in 10 years, you replace it again and you get a whole brand new system, which is amazing. Or you can buy ones that plug in. And for trips, like you had talked about, you know, some hotels, some bed and breakfasts where you might not know whether or not they're maintaining their equipment properly. Buy one of those ones that plug in. Bring it with you. It's small. Put it in your suitcase.
Yeah.
Carry it with you and plug it into your hotel room. That's a great way to keep yourself safe.
I was just thinking that, and that's what I bought for my house was the plug-ins, you know, and so we have them in every room and you know, every bedroom and then on every floor again. But I do like the idea of bringing the plug-in with you because it just gives you that peace of mind. If you're staying somewhere, again, like a bed and breakfast or somewhere maybe that you found to be a cheap vacation hotspot but maybe, you know, like you said, maybe they don't maintain their equipment properly, that would just give me peace of mind. Absolutely. You know, knowing that I was falling asleep with my family and you know, that won't happen. So, and again, just tell everybody, what is the placement of the carbon monoxide detectors? Where should those go?
It's really based on your home size, but you definitely want to have one on each level and one near the bedrooms.
Okay.
You know? So if you have a smaller 2-level house, you might be able to get away with 2. I'd also recommend you have one in a garage, especially if it's an attached garage.
Okay.
All right, because carbon monoxide builds up very quickly. During the winter months, people have remote starts.
Right.
You know, they want their car to be nice and warm, so they might hit that remote start and leave their car in the garage.
Yes.
Not thinking about the fact that it's attached.
Yes.
And all the doors are closed.
Right.
So all that carbon monoxide is going to build up in that garage and is going to go somewhere.
Right.
All right. So it's going to end up coming into the house and poisoning the people in your home.
Right, right.
You know, so having one there is great.
And Caleb, what about, I know we get snowed in quite easily, and I know I've come out to my car and, you know, there's snow piled all up around the car and around the exhaust. We should, you know, probably check the exhaust, or if you get snowed in, you know, what are some things you should do, again, just particularly with your car, to make sure that that doesn't come back inside?
Well, if your car is outside and it's in the snow, or if you get stuck in a snowbank, you definitely want to check to make sure your exhaust is not plugged. All right. If you're going to leave your car running for heat purposes or to warm it up, something like that, windows should be shut. All right. Exhaust needs to be cleared. And if you have children in the car, an adult needs to make sure they stay in that driver's seat. So a child doesn't unbuckle themselves and get up there and start messing with things and by accident cause a problem with the vehicle.
Okay, good tips. Thank you. Heating devices. Everyone knows that I'm cold all of the time. I'm cold right now. I can't feel my toes. And I have space heaters and whatnot. So let's talk about some heating devices between the furnaces, wood stoves, fireplaces. What should we do? How do we get them serviced? You know, how do we make sure we're being, again, this whole topic of making your family safe?
All right. Well, your fuel-fired furnaces, we'll start with those, all right? Typically fueled by natural gas or propane. Those need to be serviced by a technician, somebody who understands the system. This isn't like back, everybody's probably seen the movie Christmas Story, all right, where dad goes down in the basement, he's fighting with that furnace and comes out covered in coal dust. These aren't old coal furnaces, which were a pain to maintain, but not very technical. These new systems are all computerized. It's kind of like your car. You know, we used to be able to change our spark plugs. Now you can barely put gas in your vehicle because they've made them so complex. So with your furnace, have a professional come in there and actually take a look at it. They need to check it with computers. They need to look at all the points that are in there that actually allow the gas to burn properly and make sure it's getting the right ratio of air to gas. And it's also going to lower your heating bill because if it's not burning properly, it may be using more fuel than it needs to. So your heating cost isn't going to actually go up in those cases. So having those maintained is great. Changing your filters on them, things like that. Making sure your air ducts aren't blocked. All right, don't put shoes on top of them to dry because that changes the airflow.
Okay.
All right, which changes the burn ratio, which affects the heat of the house, and it's all a cascading type of problem. Now, for your solid fuel, such as your wood boilers or your chimneys off of fireplaces, you need to have those checked frequently also, at least once a year. I'd recommend twice a year, beginning of season, end of season. That way you're not surprised come wintertime the next year if that there's a problem. But there's creosote that builds up inside that, that chimney. And they have logs that they sell at some places that say they're gonna burn that out of there. Those burn extremely hot and a lot of times cause fires and not necessarily prevent them, just by the nature of how they work. That's a tar-like substance up in there, so it really needs to be cleaned out. You can look up inside your chimney with a flashlight and think, oh, that looks good because it looks nice and clean. Yeah, it's black, there's a little bit of soot. But what you don't realize is there's like a 1/4 inch of this around the whole inside of the chimney that is flammable. And you're not gonna see it. All right, unless you really know what you're looking for, you're not gonna realize it's up there. So having somebody come out and sweep that chimney is the best thing you can do for them. Also making sure you have a fire extinguisher on hand if you have your wood burning fireplace. You should always have fire extinguishers in your house, but having one near your fireplace is great. So if there is a fire, you can put that out right away. Having a metal bucket. So if you need to use your tongs and grab a log to get it out of there, you have somewhere to put it, because you don't want to go running through the house with a log that's on fire trying to get it out the door, because you know, Murphy's Law says you're going to fall or you're going to drop hot stuff, and it's not going to be good.
Of my clumsiness are going to tell me that I'm definitely going to drop that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you mentioned obviously having the fireplace serviced, how often should the furnace be serviced? How often
you should get that checked at least once a year.
Once a year,
too,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because keep in mind that 28% of home fires are caused by the fuel-fired furnaces, you know, whether it's wood or natural gas, propane, kerosene. 28%, that's a huge number of fires that are caused by these.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. I'm glad we went over those details. Again, just some other winter dangers. We already talked about running, you know, the car engine in the garage. And then how about running a generator in an enclosed area? A lot of people have generators in case of power outages or things like that.
Absolutely. There's a couple things with generators. One, you want to make sure it's outside. Do not run a generator inside your house. And try to, if you can, make sure it's downwind from your home, at least downwind of the prevailing wind. You know, up here, we typically get wind out of the west, out of the northwest. So if you have it on the east side of your home, you're probably safe.
Okay.
Occasionally, yes, we get wind out of the east, and that changes things. But you can't always adapt. You have to do the best you can. But you want to make sure that's also serviced. All right. Take it to a small engine mechanic or change your oil, change the spark plugs. Make sure it's going to start for you so you can rely on it if needed, and that it's not going to catch on fire if it is running near your house. So with the fire side in mind, keep it far enough away. If there is an issue, you're going to lose a generator, but hopefully not lose your entire house or your garage or anything like that. Now, with your other things, such as running your engines in your garage, we talked about not doing that. Nothing in your home that should be, there should be nothing in your home that runs on gas or anything like that. Any kind of engine, pressure washers, your generators, grills. You don't want to have grills inside your house. And you know, it might sound like a great idea. I'm really, really hankering for a steak and I want to grill this steak right now and it's 10 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring it inside. It's only going to be inside for a couple minutes.
I feel like that's the key. It's only going to be inside for a couple minutes, and that's where we go wrong.
It is, absolutely. The risk that you're taking by doing that is enormous. You're bringing something into your home that was made to burn things. All right, that is it's designed for. So you have carbon monoxide, you have smoke, you have the fire risk. All of that in your home right now, not a good idea to do. All right. throw on a couple extra layers of clothes and go out there and brave the elements. If you want that steak that bad,
Yeah.
all right, brave the elements and just make it happen. So.
And you know, Caleb, I think since the wildfires out in California are making such news headlines, I think it really brings to light too that you are so close to your neighbors. You know, some people, of course, have you know, great acreages and aren't that close. But I would say a lot of people in Millcreek are very, very close to their neighbors. And so if you do something that you know you shouldn't be doing and you're really taking a risk with your home, your neighbor's home is probably pretty close to yours too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have some houses in Millcreek here that are very close, you know, and, you know, look at trailers. And we have minutes to save a trailer once it catches on fire. I mean,
Oh, really?
just a matter of minutes. And those can spread so quickly that there's potential to lose multiple structures because of one fire. So you definitely have to keep everybody in mind, and not just your neighbors and yourself, but keep in mind our volunteer firefighters.
Yeah.
All right. They are leaving their families to come out and try to help you, you know, to save you or protect your property. And they're doing it for free. You know, so they're putting their lives on the line, you know, and potentially dying to assist at a fire and leaving a family behind. And if that's because you made a poor decision, that's going to be very difficult for somebody to live with for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. And I am so glad you mentioned them because they dedicate so much time, so much energy, time away from their families. And to do something, I mean, think about that. You are running into a burning building voluntarily. So I do greatly appreciate their service. I want to move down to, again, we talked a little bit about cooking in the kitchen, but you and I both have kids. So what are some good tips for, again, we can kind of move off the fire topic and just, you know, winter preparedness, winter safety in general. What are some good cooking safety tips that we can give, again, to just, you know, people who are cooking in the kitchen, but then also if there's children involved?
All right, absolutely. Well, we talked earlier about not leaving the kitchen. You know, once you start cooking, you have things on your stove, whatever, don't leave them there. All right, don't run out to the car because you forgot something out there and, oh, I want to get my boots and let them dry. And now you can run it back in and there's a problem on the stove.
So don't multitask.
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, focus on what you're doing there. Plus, there's sharp objects in the kitchen. So it's probably good to focus on the sharp object, not the other things going on. Also, don't use your smoke alarms as a timer for your kitchen. All right, that's a big thing we see. All right, if the smoke alarm is going off, your food's probably overdone at that point. If you have a problem with your smoke alarm going off in the kitchen, replace it. It's too sensitive, or change its location. It may not be in the right spot. All right, and with that in mind, we'll go back to the smoke alarms real quick. Here is if you're living in an apartment building. All right, do not take your smoke alarms down.
Yes.
You can't. That is actually illegal, and you can be fined for it. All right. If there's a problem, contact management. Let them know. Don't cover them up with plastic bags. All right. Don't duct tape over them. We've seen all sorts of things.
Yeah.
All right. But in your home, you have the option of just moving its location, which is probably the best thing for you to do. All right. Get into a different room. With the kids, rather, you want to make sure that they're not near the stove. All right. We don't want them grabbing a pot and dumping hot water on their heads or grabbing a cast iron skillet even 10 minutes after you're done cooking. It's going to be very hot.
Yes.
You know, putting their hands on the side of the stove after you've been baking. Making sure knives are up towards the top of the counter, not towards the front, so the kid can't grab it. Now, for me, my kid, or my youngest, or I apologize, my oldest, is getting old enough to want to help in the kitchen. You know, so he stands there next to me on a chair and helps with things. And I've put rules in place that he's understanding that he can't touch the knives. He can't touch the stove. He'll tell you it's hot. He knows it's hot, but he wants to help stir things. So getting him involved at a young age is going to be good because they're going to have a little bit of respect for what's going on too, and hopefully try to avoid some problems there.
That's a good point to make. We have just a couple minutes, but I don't want to forget to touch on the escape plan.
Yes, escape plans are very important, especially if you have younger kids or elderly, which may not remember as readily as some other people how to get out of a home. You need to write a plan that has 2 different exits, basically. So your front door, your back door. Some homes have 3 doors, or you might be able to escape through a garage. But you want to have something written down. Draw a map. Keep it simple. All right. But if you think about when you're in a hotel, you look at the back of the door, there's a map. All right. You're not familiar with it, so it gives you a layout of the hotel you're in to get out of there. But you can do the same thing at home. There's nothing that says you can't put a map on the back of your child's door, your bedroom door, that gives you an idea, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, you may not be thinking, how many doors do I have to pass to get out of my home? You know, so you have that plan in place. You have a meeting point that everybody goes to. Now, when you pick your meeting point, try to pick it on the same side of the road as you, all right, over by a neighbor's house. You don't want people crossing the road, because when the fire trucks are coming, they don't stop as quickly as you might hope they do. So you need to make sure that you're not going to get ran over during your escape. Call 911, all right? Don't assume that anybody else is called. Make sure you call 911 or whoever has a phone. Make sure it's done. And don't go back inside for anything. There's nothing in there that you need to go back in for. Pictures and birth certificates, all that. If it burns, it's horrible for it to burn, but it's better than losing your life to go back in there for
Exactly.
it. So.
And I have, and this is just a funny little tidbit, but just in case the power goes out or something, I don't know why, but I have the number of steps memorized that I have to walk down. So if I need to count them as I walk down in the complete dark, I know how many stairs, and I'm not going to trip and fall at the end. It's just just something that I've had in my head, but I just know how many stairs are in case I need to run down them quickly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just hope there's nothing left on the stairs, like a German Shepherd or a kid's toy.
That could be.
Absolutely. But that's a great way to do it. Now, with this fire safety and with the escape plan, something that you need to have a plan for too is for your fire hydrants in front of your house.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
And figuring out who's going to clear it. And some of our fire hydrants are right on a property line. So it's talking to your neighbors and coming out and shoveling it, because we need at least 3 feet of clearance all the way to the road. All right, so it's not just a circle around your fire hydrant. It's actually a path to the road so our firefighters can get in there and hook up hoses if they need to.
Right.
If you see a fire hydrant that isn't dug out, please get that cleaned out. All right, take the time. It only takes a matter of minutes, and it can save a life and it can save your property. So it's very important. And then shoveling your sidewalks. Not only is there code that says you have to shovel your sidewalks, but if you call 911 for a medical emergency, there's a lot of time wasted as we have to shovel the sidewalk to be able to get you or a family member out of your home by stretcher and into an ambulance.
Yeah, so that would save a lot of time. And again, not only is it just being courteous to your neighbor, and there is a code in place for enforcing residents do this, but it's going to save a lot of time in an emergency.
Absolutely, it does.
Caleb, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Viewers, we have learned so many good tips today. We're going to put Caleb's information on the screen, his phone number, email, contact. If you have any questions, please feel free to give his office a call. They are a wealth of knowledge, and we have a lot of brochures in our office that outline, again, what to do in case of an emergency, how to prepare your kids, how to prepare your pets. This is so important to know. Familiarize yourself and your family ahead of time. It could be life-saving. Thank you for tuning in to the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.